Hello, BookTube. I have some mail for you today on a bright, sunny Monday, still enjoying short-sleeve weather. This little hoodie here, this little fleece hoodie here is all that I will need outside, and by the time Frida and I are done with our escapades all day long, I'll be hot and sweaty uh, because it's just not cold at all. A slight dip in temperature is coming in a few days, but it's a long way away now, and I don't believe it's going to happen. Oh, I'll have to see it to believe it. So this mail was just unmolested on the front porch, except my sparrows were giving it the hairy eyeball. They don't like any intrusions in their porch. I'm constantly trying to tell them, it's not your porch, it's my porch, and you wouldn't be alive if I didn't feed you, because none of you bother to go out hunting for food anymore. But I can't talk to them. I can only talk to one kind of animal on Earth, and it's not my sparrows. I love them, but I can't talk to them. They're little a-holes. So we've got a bunch of stuff here, including a box. We're ending with a big box, so let's see what we have here. And see if anything is really enticing. Okay, this first one is a finished copy of something we've seen already. This comes out in mid-February, Valentine's Day. This is The People's Tongue, Americans and the English Language, edited by Elon Stavins. This is a finished copy of this thing. A riveting, one-of-a-kind anthology of the diversity, strangeness, and power of American English that features a tremendous array of letters, poems, memoirs, jeremiads, stories, songs, documents, and more, from Sojourner Truth and Abraham Lincoln to Henry Roth and Zora Neale Hurston, from George Carlin and James Baldwin to Richard Rodriguez and Amy Tan, from Tony Kushner to Toni Morrison and Louise Erdrich. Okay, great. I've had the advance copy and I haven't touched it. And I mean to do that. I meant to put the advance copy on my list for this weekend, and I didn't do it. This weekend was consumed with accidental reads, a great deal of accidental reads. No apologies. I will make up the ground, but I did a lot of unplanned reading this weekend. I will make up the ground. So what is this? What is this next one? Also a finished copy. Okay, I can't remember if we saw this already in advance copy. This is James Runcie. This is Tell Me Good Things on Love, Death, and Marriage. Tell Me Good Things, which comes out in late February. Maybe a lot of these will be February finished copies. That would be great if it were. I could use a lot of those. In early 2020, as the world sunk into the pandemic, James Runcie and his wife Marilyn Imray were going through a different, far more personal tragedy. After 35 years of miraculously happy marriage, they learned that the painful, frustrating symptoms Marilyn had been experiencing for 2 years were a sign of ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease or motor neuron disease. With this diagnosis, during the isolation and strangeness of the pandemic, James and Marilyn's lives were upended. A novelist who created the Grantchester series, a series of novels, you know those. Some of you may have seen the TV adaptation. And The Great Passion, which fictionalized Bach's writing of the St. Matthew Passion through the eyes of a grieving pupil. James's work has often tenderly explored loss. Now, in this novel, his startling and intimate memoir, James tells the story of Marilyn's illness and death less than 6 months after her diagnosis, in all its moments of tragedy, rage, and strangeness, while painting a vivid portrait of her life in all its color, humor, and brightness. Oh, my. Okay, I don't remember if we got this already, but this sounds wonderful. Hard to read, but wonderful. Fantastic. Okay, 2 February releases. Let's see if we can keep that going. This next one has some heft to it. Could be a finished copy, in which case February is likely. What we got here? Oh, no, this is for May. Oh, great. Okay, I've been looking forward to this. I'm going to read this this week. I'm not going to wait until May. This is by Scott Shapiro, and it is called Fancy Bear Goes Fishing. The dark history of the information age in 5 extraordinary hacks. Can't wait. It's a signal paradox of our time that we live in an information society but do not know how it works. And without understanding how our information is stored, used, and protected, we are vulnerable to having it exploited. In this book, the author draws on his popular Yale University class about hacking to expose the secrets of the digital age. With lucidity and wit, he establishes that cybercrime has less to do with defective programming than with the faulty wiring of our psyches and societies. And because hacking is a human interest story, he tells the fascinating tales of perpetrators, including Robert Morris Jr., the graduate student who accidentally crashed the internet in the 1980s, and the Bulgarian Dark Avenger, who invented the first mutating computer virus engine. We also meet a 16-year-old from South Boston who took control of Paris Hilton's cell phone, the Russian intelligence officers who sought to take control of the US election, and others. In telling their stories, the author exposes the hackers' toolkits and gives fresh answers to vital questions. Why is the internet so vulnerable? What can we do in response? Fantastic. This comes out in late May, and it's going to raise a whole bunch of questions. I mean, it should raise a whole bunch of questions in you anyway. Do you use a password manager? Do you use a password protector? Do you routinely change your passwords? Do you make sure that your password protector is end-to-end encrypted? Do you know what end-to-end encrypted means? And you might think, oh, that's all wonky hackish stuff. I don't need to know any of that. You do. You absolutely do. In the same way that if you were going to a dicey neighborhood, you would read up or learn about it first. If you were going to a dicey part of a dicey country, you would read up on it first. You would get advice and take precautions. People don't do that on the internet, and the answer to that rhetorical question, why has the internet got this way? Why don't people care about these things? Is because the internet has two besetting original sins. One is anonymity. It has absolutely made anonymity positively easy to do. And the second is freedom, including a free price tag, a price tag of 0. Free, effortless use has become another of the besetting original sins of the internet. And that's bad. It is a gigantic, sprawling, complex place. It, I think, should be free. A huge part of it should be free, but it should not be effortless. You should need to go in fully armed in order to enjoy this greatest resource in the history of human resources. Instead, people fall out of bed and just use this thing. They access public Wi-Fi at Starbucks or at the library. They access public Wi-Fi in order to do their banking on their laptop at Starbucks or on a computer at the library. I've seen people do that. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I'd be willing to bet that you, watching this video, take virtually no security precautions when it comes to your use of the internet. Virtually none. Putting an exclamation point in your password is just not an example of that. I bet you take no security precautions at all. You should start taking security precautions, because it's only when someone takes control of your computer and, in one case, shuts it off from you and demands that you pay to get it back, or in the other case, doesn't even tell you that they're there. Just sticks along for the ride with every keystroke, everything you see and do. It's only when that happens that you suddenly realize how much of your life is invested in the internet and how little precautions you've taken to safeguard it in any way. I'm hoping that this book does a lot of that kind of lecturing, the kind of lecturing that I've just done now, because people need it. They really do. Great. Fancy Bear Goes Fishing. Can't wait. I will read that this week. I'm not going to wait. All right, let's move on. Still have some things to do here. Okay, this is the finished copy, something we've already seen. This comes out on Valentine's Day as well. I guess Valentine's Day is a big release day. This is the lovely finished copy of Bright and Deadly Things by Lexi Elliott. The garish lettering, at least this isn't said, Bright and Deadly Things, I Will Kill You. That's the standard stark, stupid title of modern day thrillers. At least this doesn't have that. Lexi Elliott writes novels of psychological suspense so distinctive they are in a class of their own. Okay, well, but I want to know about this book. This is her fourth book. It is set in a remote and rustic mountaintop retreat in the French Alps, which has been a real-life destination for Oxford University students and Dawn since 1891. And Leslie attended an invitation-only reading party there while working on her doctorate in theoretical physics. Years later, she realized that the chalet, with its isolated location and strange history, was perfectly suited for a tale of intrigue and deception amongst the close-knit group of academics. And we got this originally in the advanced copy, and I said it sounded intriguing, but I didn't get to it. So now this is always the way of it on this channel. The arrival of a finished copy is always a slight push in the posterior for me to put it on the immediate pile and get to it. I'm doing well for 2023 releases. This weekend had a little bit of indulgence in it. It wasn't complete, but it was a little bit. But I'm getting it all done. What is this next one? What on earth is this? Do you have a date for me? May. This comes out in May. What is the? Oh, right. Oh, I think I remember a publicist telling me about this. This is by Mariana Alessandri. It's called Night Vision: Seeing Ourselves Through Dark Moods. This is about this is not the typical whimsical, optimistic self-improvement book. It's about the reality of dark moods. Under the light of ancient Western philosophies, our darker moods like grief, anguish, and depression can seem irrational. I wouldn't put grief in there. Grief is something that happens to you. It's not a mood. It's a tragedy that happens to you. You still have to heal from it well instead of poorly. I wouldn't put, well, anyway, let's just move on. When viewed through the lens of modern psychology, they can even look like mental disorders. That's modern psychology's fault. That's modern psychology taking the paychecks of big pharma in order to pathologize things that are, in fact, moods, passing moods. That's why every single bad mood you have is in the DSM. It's modern psychology's fault. If they had stood up and said, okay, well, you're offering me an all-expense-paid trip to a seminar in the Bahamas, but do you have any actual clinical proof that this thing that you're calling a recognized mental illness actually is one? Because if not, I'm not going to prostitute my professional image just because you'll pay for my kid's school as well. I don't know, it looks pretty pathological to me. So, anyway, the self-help industry, determined to sell us the promise of a brighter future, can sometimes leave us feeling ashamed that we are not more grateful, happy, or optimistic. Night Vision invites us to consider a different approach to life, one in which we stop feeling bad about feeling bad. In this powerful and disarmingly intimate book, existential philosopher Mariana Alessandri draws on the stories of a diverse group of 19th and 20th century philosophers and writers to help us see that our suffering is not a sign that we are broken, but that we are tender, perceptive, and intelligent. Don't go to writers for your example. Please don't do that. Thinkers such as Audre Lorde, Miguel de Unamuno, C.S. Lewis, Soren Kierkegaard. Oh my God. You'll want to kill yourself. Sat in their anger, sadness, and anxiety until their eyes adjusted to the dark. Oh, that's well put. That was well put. The author explains how readers can cultivate night vision and discovers new sides to our painful moods, such as wit and humor, closeness and warmth, connection, and clarity. Interesting. Okay, well, this did intrigue me when I originally heard of it, and now it intrigues me even more. I'm going to put it off. I've got a few other things to do this week. Let's see what this next one is. It came in a little box here. Okay, gross. Invoice, we don't want that. Oh, it's another healing book. It's another dark emotions book. How interesting. What a coincidence. This is by Cynthia Fleury, and it's called Here Lies Bitterness, Healing from Resentment. Another beautiful American cover. What's going on here? I don't have a sheet for this. I just got the invoice. It doesn't have any publication information on it, so I don't know when this comes out or really anything about it. Let's just read the back here. The greatest threat to modern democracy comes from within, and it has a name: resentment. No, that is not true. That is not true. Some of you will be of a sufficient vintage to remember that there was no shortage of resentment in the 1960s. No one said that democracy was under threat from within in the 1960s. We were under threat from without in the 1960s. There was plenty of resentment. It's not resentment, but it's a threat to modern democracy. It's the fact that modern democracies are not protecting themselves legally and physically against autocratic agitators in their midst. Steve Bannon has been responsible now for orchestrating and pushing along armed autocratic coup attempts in 3 different free countries. 3 different countries. One man. And he's not only not dead, he's not in prison, even though he has been convicted of a crime, which carries a jail sentence. Insane. Absolutely insane. That the world's most powerful democracy would not only not punish the man who launched an armed insurrection against the Capitol, but let him run for president again. It's not resentment that is the greatest threat. It's complacency. But anyway, let's let the book go on. Stemming from feelings of inferiority in relation to others, resentment is a diffuse and obsessive loathing, coupled with delusions of victimhood, which clouds one's judgment and perspective so that an individual's capacity to act and heal is paralyzed. Without the ability to heal, resentment can give rise to violent impulses, to the rejection of the rule of law, the proliferation of conspiracy theories, and the urge to use violent means to try to regain control of one's life. As individuals and as societies, we face the same challenge: how to diagnose resentment and its dark forces, and how to resist the temptation to allow it to become the motor of our individual and collective histories. This does sound really smart. Who's the author when she's, oh no, we don't want to do that, do we? We don't want to do that. Well, I have no idea who Cynthia Fleury is, nor do I care. Well, I will concentrate on the book. But this is about resentment. Very interesting. A book-length study about social resentment. I don't know how that will go. And I'm assuming that this thing does not have an index or any kind of critical apparatus. I see endnotes, but no index. So I don't know what will be in here. I don't know how, does this come up to the present day? Does it talk about incels or the Proud Boys or YouTube? I don't know if it does or not. I don't know the date on it. And then we have a box. We'll finish up with this big box, which has, it's a repurposed Target box. So I'm thinking it comes from one of you. I'm thinking that it is a violation of rule number 1, which is don't send Steve a book. Rule number 1 took a pounding last week when an old friend of mine sent me a book. Just sent me a whole bunch of books, gave me a bag of books, and didn't even care about rule number 1. And I worried that that was making all of you think that it was open season. Hoping this is not part of that. Goodness gracious, this is packed really well. It's another way you can always tell that it comes from an individual is that they will overpack. They will pack the package for Mars instead of Boston. But you're coming along. You're coming along. Brute force will work. Okay. All right. This is not a violation of rule number 1. This is a box full of books. But this is not a violation of rule number 1 because one way around rule number 1, we don't talk about it much. But one way around rule number 1 is to consult with me ahead of time. Ask me, do you want this? And if I say yes, then it's not a violation of rule number 1. And I said yes to this. This is a box of Harlequins. This is a box of romances. It's a box of Harlequin. One of their imprints that they don't do in America anymore, unfortunately, is the Harlequin historicals. Harlequin has category romances that come out every month. And one of the categories that they have is historicals, 4 historical romances every month. I see them on the Harlequin website, but they're not in any bookstores in America, and I don't have any retail bookstores anyway near me. So one of you finds them at library book sales and whatnot and just makes up a box from time to time. This is like the 4th or 5th box. So what have we got here? First one is by Sarah Mallory, The Laird's Runaway Wife. I'm just going to make a stack of these things. Then we have by Annie Burroughs, who's wonderful. This is How to Catch a Viscount. Great. So it'd be a standard Regency romance, not set in Scotland or anything like that. Then what? Oh my. This is Joanna Johnson. This is The Return of the Long-Lost Husband. These are photo covers. This one at least has a bit of architecture behind him, and he's got a rakish eye patch on. What's this next one? Okay, this is also a standard Regency. This is Laura Temple's The Earl She Should Never Desire. There he is with hair just brushing over his ear, like that, and fashionable stubble. War widow Lily Walsh has left her aristocratic family behind, but she can't deny her younger sister's request to come to London to meet her fiancé. Though not a love match, Lord Sherburne is kind, amusing, and ideal for her sister on paper. But as Lily gets to know him, she's finding him alarmingly attractive, and the forbidden look in the Earl's eyes shows the feeling is mutual. Oh my God, she's going to swoop in and take her sister's betrothed. Oh my. Okay, another standard Regency, another normal Regency. This is The Duke's Forbidden Ward by Millie Adams. He also has some stubble going on. Ginger stubble is a little harder to see, but unmistakable. I am slightly familiar with ginger stubble, so I'm able to spot it at a distance. Then we have, we go back to Scotland. This is The Highlander's Tactical Marriage by Jenny Fletcher. We've got, once again, an architectural detail in the background there. Scottish romances don't really do it for me, but maybe these will change my mind. Oh no, more Scottish romance. This is Madeline Martin. This is the Highlander's Stolen Bride. Look at that hauberk he's got on there. Good Lord. It doesn't matter. I mean, with these photo covers, they've got a big wardrobe area, and they're just pulling from it to do the. It doesn't. None of that clothing is accurate to when was this going to give me a date? You don't go to these sorts of things for that anyway. 1360. I don't think so, but nevertheless, you don't go to it for that. Okay, then we have another standard Regency. This is Christine Merrill, the Lady Rachel's Dangerous Duke. Now we have blonde stubble. So we've had brunette stubble, black stubble, ginger stubble, and now blonde stubble. I guess the stubble is all in. Wouldn't have been in the time period, but I guess it is now. And we're bouncing all over the peerage as well. This is by Virginia Heath. This is the Earl's Inconvenient House Guest. He's got the markings of a full-on beard there. It looks a lot like Prince Harry. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. I'm so grateful to this. I'm hoping the center's watching. I'll send an email. Okay, back to Scotland. This is A Laird for the Governess by Catherine Tilney. Or Tinley. Not Tilney. Tinley. Where she's going to be called in as a governess, but he's going to fall in love with her. I've fallen in love with all of my governesses. Then we have Inherited as the Gentleman's Bride by Carol Ahrens. I never understand. I mean, photo covers I don't like just in general. I realize they're cost effective, but I don't tend to like them. But I never understand photo covers like this where the two people aren't even looking at each other. They don't even know they're in the same photo. That always confuses me. It sort of diffuses the romantic element right away. Then we have by Eve Shepherd, The Duke's Rebellious Lady. Boy, I'm going to have to check and see. Eve Shepherd, that name rings a bell. I think I've read at least one Harlequin historical by Eve Shepherd that I really liked. And once again, stubble. I guess that's going to be the weird theme here. She has a kind of a weird 1,000-mile stare, but I guess they both do. They both do. That's probably a match that's trouble. Okay, then we have Liz Tyner. This is Tempting a Reformed Rake. Once again, the return of stubble, this time black stubble. She's not looking at him. She's looking straight at us. And you can see these things have been, library book sale or whatever. So much fun to give these another home. I have a huge collection of these, all from the same person. Then we have Winning Back His Duchess by Amanda McCabe. What a lovely cover. That is just great. Is that Venice? That looks like Venice. Suggesting divorce to her estranged husband, Jamie, Duke of Bison, B-Y-S-O-N, takes all of Rose Wilkins' courage. Years of distance and heartbreak have taken a toll. She needs a new start. But Jamie won't hear of divorce because of the scandal alone. His counteroffer is a trip to Venice. This is indeed set in Venice. Might discovering Venice's delights together rekindle the still simmering desire that drew Rose and Jamie as a starry-eyed young American heiress. Okay, that goes to the front of the list. That's a romance set in Venice. Then we have The Marquis Meets His Match by Laura Martin. Need I say, stubble. we once again have stubble. She seems to be wearing his hat. That's kind of cute. Who knows what's going on there? Oh, look at all these things. This is just wonderful. A whole pile of romances to read. Then we have Lady Armstrong's Scandalous Awakening by Marguerite Kay. Very intimate cover. Very nice. Totally anachronistic, but very, very nice. Then what's this next one? Miss Peverett's Secret Scandal by Bronwyn Scott, who I love. Bronwyn Scott does lots of these things, and I've never read one I didn't like. He is clean-shaven, so I have to assume he's the villain of the novel. The hero is off stage. And finally, this last one. The Iron Warrior Returns by Michelle Willingham. No women here. This is a He-Man cover. It looks like some sort of medieval warrior. What is he? To regain his stolen lands and save his people from suffering, Robert of Penrith has returned to marry his enemy's daughter. To Robert's surprise, his dearest friend, Morwenna, helps him win the heiress's hand, despite the danger to them both. The fierce, beautiful miller's daughter has stood by him through his exile, but a single kiss ignites a passion that threatens to upend all of Robert's plans. Okay, but when do you take place? AD 1205. So a century after the Norman Conquest, so medieval times, in ye olden times. So there we go, a whole box of Harlequin romances. How wonderful. Oh my, that is a huge chunk of my romance reading budget, time-wise, for the next month. That's great. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So there you go. That is the mail. We have a whole stack of romances. Then Here Lies Bitterness, about resentment in modern day society. Night Vision, about seeing clearly in the dark of your soul, in the dark moments of your soul, instead of just letting it overwhelm you. Then Bright and Deadly Things, a thriller set in a secluded resort chalet. Fancy Bear Goes Fishing, which I hope is going to get widely reviewed when it comes out. I'm hoping that that's the case. Tell Me Good Things. Sounds like it's going to be a gut punch of a thing. And then The People's Tongue, a book about the changing nature of English in America, that I'm hoping behaves itself. I really am. I'm hoping that it doesn't. I'm hoping that the book is not the standard thing, where the book opens up by telling me that Earth is a green-skied planet circling around two suns. And it always has been. Haven't you noticed? I really don't. I have, in 2023, I've noticed that I have almost no patience for books like that anymore. They had their heyday, 2015 to 2020. I have almost no patience for them anymore. I have almost no patience in people going on Twitter and telling me that Star Trek has always been queer. Totally. There's never been anyone straight in Star Trek. Didn't you notice? I really don't want anything like that. I don't want The People's Tongue to tell me that English language in America has always used plural pronouns for single people, for individual people. I'm not coming to the subject completely cold. So I don't want the authors or the people that collected an anthology to try to gaslight me. I want them just to talk about their subject. Really hoping that will be the case. I'll find out tonight. So that's it. That is a bright, sunny mail haul. The day is calling. The day is lovely. So I'm going to put all this stuff away, clean up the mess I've made, and maybe go out for a little ramble. That would be great for a whole night of writing and reading and more rambling, because it's beautiful outside. Hope it's beautiful where you are. I know quite a bit of the country is freezing cold, and quite a bit of the country is facing snow, but not here. So anyway, that's the mail for today. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.